we're so blessed and grateful to have an opportunity to live in the time in which we're living in, and seeing and learning all the things that we're seeing and learning, and watching the false destroy itself and collapse right in front of our very eyes. And we have uh, we have really much reason to be filled with joy and light and happiness. Uh, this is a this may be one of the greatest times that exist, at least for our lifetimes. May be the greatest time that we're headed into, that humanity may see in a long time. So, uh, namaste to each and every one of you. We bow to you. Uh, I hope that you guys will value. I hope that you're doing work and study. I hope that you're pondering and thinking. I hope that you are meditating and beginning the practice of meditation. And for those of you who can, certainly yoga is an amazing thing, both for your body but for your mind. And uh, there really is a lot of reasons for doing these things, but there's also a lot of reasons for why they don't want you to do them, or why they've worked so hard to hide the truth from us. As many of you been told and recognized, we sent out some links to some videos. Uh, it's been amazing since I taught that, whatever it's been, 2 months ago. It's like, I don't know, there's 5 or 6 teachings that have popped to the top all of a sudden, and it's actually not new knowledge. It's not new wisdom. It certainly was to me, coming out of the darkness of Christianity, and to find out that, you know, just the beginning of it was enough to make me go, wow. And then so you do your research, and then you find out people who've researched for years, and you know, for years, with lots of resources that I, unfortunately, right now, source hasn't blessed me with, uh, or it hasn't manifested anyways. And so, about who this Yeshua, who Master Isa, there's several other names depending on what dialect of what tongue that he is called, but to be sure, for him, uh, he is not the biblical Christian Jesus. And so I hope you will take advantage of those things. The purpose of them is to help strengthen you that we are on the right track. For those of you who've begun this journey with us, and you are recognizing, what's really been mind-boggling to me is how fast the changes when we got on the right path. I shared with y'all guys that spirit force, source power spoke to me and said that we were to be free. And that's been quite amazing, because from that day and those words forward, there's been a freedom, uh, you know. So I just want you to remember that it is very sad, and it is very true, that we have been massively deceived. It's funny that the strong delusion of the Bible, friends, actually is one of those projection things, because the the teachings of Christianity are that strong projection. They're a delusion, and so when you begin to look at that in the concept of the matrix and altered reality, and I think Dolores Cannon stated it as convoluted reality, uh, then you all of a sudden understand why many things that maybe you've questioned your whole life. Maybe you instinctively, I know you did, but maybe you haven't realized yet that instinctively you had some knowings about some things, and maybe you're one of those people that it caused pain. I've met many people and talked to them, and they were raised up in a belief system, and something inside of them instinctively told them that this isn't the truth. And of course, as you can well imagine, if you've ever been one of the ones that went and sat with the preacher and talked to him, and he told you that, well, that's just your wrong thinking, and you need to believe what the Bible says and what I teach you. And so we're living in a really amazing time. There are major things going on with our earth. There are major things going on in the spirit realm. The frequencies of people are changing, and it is already starting to affect the world on several different levels. Whether you realize it or not, it is true. On a smaller scale level, for us, it's been a total flipping upside down of the head in the last 2 or 3 months, and it's been one of the greatest paradigms, I think, that I could say that's ever happened. We went from walking in that direction to walking in that direction in 1.20 seconds, folks. Anybody who hung with us in the middle of that, you're special, because most people just cannot get their minds around how did we go, how did this happen so quickly. But I know that you knew this, but there's plenty of statements that are made about the way that Source is going to do the things that he does, that you will not have the time that you had in the past. I heard that as a Christian before I ever started preaching, that there were Christian people that were, if you want to call them, I don't believe that they were, but if you want to use the Christian name prophet, that were speaking metaphysical truths in churches, and nobody in the church had a clue about what they were talking about, but now they're starting to make sense. If you knew those person away from the church, you would have probably found out they're a lot more metaphysical than they were Christian. And so it's really been a hidden guise, and Source has been sending people for a long time to try to help us. So we're gonna take a look. I will, as hopefully it'll whet your appetite, and hopefully it'll encourage you to go spend some time before we get there. But I've just been overwhelmed with some of the things that I've learned recently from Dolores Cannon, and many of you may not know her. Just mark that name and go look. I would encourage you to stay away from the cartoon type Dolores Cannon things that are using her name. Although they're very good, they're not going to teach you the basics that you could glean otherwise. But maybe go watch some of Dolores Cannon's things. She was doing the do 30 years ago, folks, 40 years ago. This is not new. They called them New Age and made fun of them and all kinds of stuff in the 1980s. People were already beginning to expose the light. And we're coming to a time in world history where there is going to be a mass separation between those people who choose, and I'll say that again, it is a choice and you will have to make it. I know you may not understand all the pieces that would make that really easy to understand, but I just want to sow the seed in you that there is coming a time on this earth, and we're already moving into it, when you will have to decide whether you are going to stay in the drama and the turmoil of low frequency, or whether you are going to submit to Source and do the work. And there's the hard part, because you really loved your free salvation from Jesus. You really loved that he did everything. He died for you, he bled for you, he fed you, his sacrificial cannibalistic body. You loved that because that meant you didn't have to do anything. And unfortunately, that's not how reality really works. That's actually proof that all of this stuff is just a delusion. You're living in a TV show. You're living in a movie. None of those things are reality. He didn't do any of those things, and neither is he going to. And so, for some, I've probably already said enough, but I promise you they're words of love and they're words of wisdom, and they are words that will help you come to understanding. We get to choose whether or not we stay in the matrix or whether we live in truth. In truth. So we're going to pick up, and we're going to, funny enough, we're going to look at the first books. I haven't decided which one we're going to do yet, but we're going to jump off on Wednesday nights when we finish Thomas, and we're going to move into a time, and I'm going to show you guys some life and then some things because of those lives, past lives that people have lived. First off, how real that really is, that once again, one of the major lies that we've been robbed from is that we believe we were born once and we die once, and that's all there is to it. And my friend, that's the biggest lie that they've ever sold you. And that's massively being proven by many legs of science right now. So it's a time. This is the time. We have an amazing opportunity to live in the time. And it's infinitely bigger than the story the Christian Church and Bible and New Testament gives you. But many, 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 many of those facets of the New Testament, friend, are nothing but pure metaphysics that have been doctored. And so we'll see that as we go along. You'll see why they did. Why did they do that? Why did they know? For those of you who haven't watched these things, and I'm so thankful for Mary Ann and her faithfulness to send out these links so that you guys can access these things. If she sent it, it's really, I promise you, it's important. But I would say that probably nobody that's listening, maybe there's one or two that do, but the mass majority of people have no concept and no clue that the true Yeshua went through the crucifixion, was put in a tube, and then taken away, and lived to be 80 years old in Kashmir, India, and that there's proof of all of that. What? There's proof that Jesus lived to be 80 years old in Kashmir, India, and was a Buddhist monk, and you don't know anything about it? I don't think you can call that conspiracy theory anymore. And the proof is real. So maybe you should give yourself the opportunity to grow. Maybe you're resistant. If you are resistant, maybe you're resistant just because you're scared that your world might get tipped up on its ear. And quite honestly, I'll be honest with you, it's going to. The other side is you can stay in ignorance in Christianity, and when the earth is actually split and the new earth is begun, then you can live out the pain that you live out now for another, 5, 6, 10,000 lifetimes. And suffer just like you're suffering right now. But there's a bunch of us that I'm meeting that they don't want that. We're going to get our karma cleaned up, and this is going to be our last time on this earth in the form in which we are. And if you understand what that is and how real that really is, then all of this begins to get real a whole lot easier. And so until that happens for you, hopefully you some of you may have had an aha. And if you don't, hopefully you will have an aha. And when you do, when you begin to awaken, I promise you the motivation from Source will find its way into you. And so I just want to encourage you with love and light that you trust Him. That all the things that Yeshua taught, I don't say Jesus because I don't believe in the Christian Jesus, but the Yeshua or Master Isa, the things he taught are absolutely correct, and they're all over the New Testament, just as Paul's were. I get why both of those were anti-Torah. I know it makes me sometimes feel a bit like an idiot, but, instead of just feeling like an idiot, now I'm learning I need to smile like an idiot, and that's much better, I promise you. So, let's move on. Gospel of Thomas. All right, I believe that we let's pick up in verse 94. And Jesus said, "He who seeks will find, and he who knocks will be let in." And so I'm going to leave where my dialogue was at, and I'm going to step into this, and it takes me right back to where my dialogue was. Okay, there are many, many people who are telling the world that there is a decision day that is coming, and it is you will make a decision whether you choose enlightenment or whether you choose to stay in the base human form in low frequency and suffer again and again and again other lifetimes. And so Yeshua said, I'd love for you to notice the intent, because that's becoming a big thing. Why you do. Yeshua talked about intent, and so did Paul. Didn't mean anything when I was a Christian, but it certainly does now. What you are, the emphasis and the power that you're placing into what you say has everything to do with what happens to you and the things that you desire to happen. So, but he says, he who seeks will find. So let me ask the first question right off the bat would be, what about all of those who aren't seeking? Do they have any hope of finding? Maybe you're here today and maybe you're really not seeking. My words will go like this. Wah, 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 and it won't mean a thing to you, and you won't have a clue about why I'm even sitting here talking. But for those of you that are light and love, my words are power and love and depth and healing, and there is a purpose for all of us, and there is a purpose for all of this. But not everybody, contrary to everybody's belief, eventually everyone is going to get there. But it's that eventually part that I'm trying to navigate around, if you will. I don't want to live 5 more lifetimes on earth, friends. I want to, or 500 times. I want to clean my karma up now and leave this life and go explore the universe is. And you can do that if you choose to, but you have to choose to. So he who seeks will find. So as I always share with you guys, that also by virtue says, whether you recognize it or not, linguistically, he who seeks will find linguistically tells you that those who have no desire to seek will not find. So you will be without. You will be. There is a catching away, and my grandson, very insightful and very anointed by Father Source, made a statement. He said, so it's kind of like the rapture, Granddad. And I said, you're right. Because some are going to be taken and moved in. The only difference is it's not like they're trying to sell you the rapture. This is moving into different dimensions of reality, which, in case you didn't know it, you right now are living 1,000 different dimensions, and every one of those different dimensions is a different lifestyle. You're living the one you are because you chose that one. And when you get ready to shift that, you can shift dimensions and your life will totally change. You get to create your own reality. I know you've been lied to and told that you got to accept what life gives you, but my friend, that's the biggest lie they've ever sold us. And we bought it hook, line, and sinker. Your life doesn't have to stay like it is. But it will if you do nothing. And he who knocks will be let in. Once again, another action. So if you choose not to knock, so here's how it goes. Well, I heard that guy, but I don't believe what he says. He was teaching the Bible 6 months ago. Are you not human? Somebody else said that about, well, I'm surprised it took that long for y'all to find the truth. Hell, I'm not. There's people that have lived 25 lifetimes and still haven't found the truth. Why would it be surprising it took me 30 years to find out I'd been lied to by everybody I knew? I think we're way ahead of the curve if you want to know the truth. And we always have been. For those that have been with me any length of time, you know we've been way out in front of everybody else in every level since the very beginning. Why? Because Source is the one who is orchestrating and is order and is in control. I don't have to struggle with, am I doing the right thing? I know I am. And you don't have to struggle with, or if you are. If you don't feel like you know, and that's okay, because all of us feel that also. As much as I know that I'm walking the right path, I also want to know more about what I can do to walk the righter path. And so there's a huge difference there. That's not, I'm going to hell if I don't get it right. It just is a matter of how effective and how much difficulty I might encounter while I'm walking this path. I'm going back to Source, friends. I'm going back to God who gave me. I will be light again. And according to Yeshua, I already am light, but I just got a whole bunch of crud that's been thrown, wet blankets that have been thrown over my bright and shiny light, and I'm working as hard as I can to cut mine off and yours too, if you'll allow me. But we are going back to light. It is going to happen on this earth. But I wanted you to see out of that verse the power of what's not said is greater in that situation than what is said. Because of course it's wonderful, those that knock, if you go up to somebody's house and you just stand on the porch and you don't ever knock on the door, don't be surprised that they don't come to the door. That's exactly the same concept here. If you walk up to his door and you choose not to knock on it, why would you think he's going to all of a sudden open up the powers of heaven for you? You obviously weren't that worried about it. If you won't lay down for an hour and do the greatest blessing that you can for yourself, which is to shut your mind up and lay and move into another plane that heals you and do the things that are available to you. If you won't do those things, why will you do anything else for him? I know that might sound a little harsh, but I promise you it was said in love, friends. It's not enough. Of course you've been lied to. Again, you won't make it to where you need to go if you choose not to meditate. You will not make it. And that's not me putting some Revelation 22:19 verse on you. It's just telling you a pure and simple fact. There's a part that you have to play in this. You can't do everything, but you need to do what you can do. And one of the things you can and should be actively seeking is to learn how to meditate. It's going to be weird to you. It's going to seem strange to you. You don't have the time for it. Of course you don't. All your life that's caused you so much pain is so much more important than pleasing Source. I know that it's rough, but once again, I am speaking in love. I'm not here to condemn anybody. If that's in you, that's in you. If you choose to change, wonderful. I and everyone I know will be there to support you and help you in any way. And if you choose not to, we're learning that the timelines and the dimensions are going to bring this separation of which I talk about. And friends, it's already happening. Source is already moving people out of people's lives because the timelines that the two people are walking, that's what all of that separation stuff is, actually a metaphysical principle about dimensions. And it's all over the Bible. Those people knew what you don't have a clue about. There's nothing about the Bible that's literal. Nothing. Save maybe a few stories, most of which have been massively embellished. But it's a metaphysical document. It's about how to know God. And it ain't got a thing to do with Yahweh, and it ain't got a thing to do with Christianity. In fact, those are two of the things that will keep you the furthest from him. So Jesus said, if you have money, do not lend it at interest, but give it to one from whom you will not get it back. And we look at that and we go, it's all I can do to have my own. So the question is then, did he mean it? Of course he did. Was he talking about a higher level? You bet he was. But here's the thing that you guys might not quite understand. You're never going to receive from source, you're never going to receive from the universe all that you could have had as long as you're stingy. You got a lot of money in your bank account, and all you sleep at night, all you worry, everything that comes out of your mouth is about money and making more money. I promise you, that'll be the greatest curse you ever had. Because it will cause you to not be able to step into the presence. Wow, some of this stuff is so big, so much bigger than Christianity. Do not give what is holy to the dogs, and seek and knock. And if you have something, give it away, because you can never truly be rich until you give it away. How many of you remember the little thing that it's better to what than to what? I'm sorry, for who was it that said those words? And what did he metaphysically mean by those words? It's better for you to give than to receive. None of you believe that, or you would be giving everything that you have away so that you might really, truly receive. And is he talking about a physical plane movement to a higher level plane? Of course he is. He's light. Just as he told you you were. You are light. You are the light of the world. This world is being ignited right now by the light of people. So Jesus said, the kingdom of the Father, source, is like a certain woman who was carrying a jar full of meal. Okay? So let's get that. The kingdom of the Father is like a certain woman who was carrying a jar full of meal. And while she was walking on the road, still some distance from home, the handle of the jar broke and the meal emptied out behind her on the road. She did not realize it. She had noticed no accident. And when she reached her home, she set the jar down and found it empty. So what is going on here really? Is he really telling us that God is impoverished and isn't smart enough to know? Or are we trying to look at that through a Christian carnal understanding? So for those of you that desire to be blessed, I share with you a blessing. If this is what the kingdom of our Father source, if this is what his kingdom is like, what metaphoric picture, what metaphysical truth can we learn from Yeshua's statement? And just so if you didn't get it yourself, maybe I can help you to see. Maybe you'll see that what I'm saying. He's trying to tell us that the kingdom is never going to drop on you all at once. There's a reason why the picture, there's been some that have had spirits speak and say, you don't need to know that. You're not even capable of dealing with what you have, and yet all you do is ask if we will give you more. That's also another diminishing effect. That's not living in the moment. That's not being thankful for what we have. Whether it's more or whether it's less has nothing to do with our perspective. So whatever I have right now today, whatever truth and light exists inside of me, that is exactly the truth and the light that I was put here 50 million years ago to speak on this day, on this night, at 7 o'clock. I'm not short anything. I'm not deficit anything. I'm not failure in anything. I have all truth, and it was destined for this hour. And all of those who come and hear it, you were destined to hear that. And if you will pay heed to it, you will do well. And if you don't, you just get to go around the mountain again and again. It's not like you're going to get sent to hell if you miss it. You might feel like hell, but you're not going to hell just because you missed the truth. It just means your journey is that much harder or that much longer, and sometimes longer is, I would rather have it harder and shorter than longer and repetitive. Over and over again, you've ever heard that? She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. The problem is whenever she going to quit coming around the mountain. I mean, how about you? Are you tired of going around the mountain of you can't find the power inside of yourself to change? So you just keep doing the same thing, beating your head up against the wall every time, and you haven't yet figured out that it's time for us to quit that and begin. You can continue if you choose to, but you don't have to choose that. And that's the beauty of Source. We can make this take as long or as short as we choose to. And so the kingdom of the Father, he's telling us this is a source fact from an ascended master. Here's a source fact for you. The kingdom of Source is like a woman who would take a little leaven, conceal it in some dough. I'm sorry. I did jump one again. I apologize. I'm really stoked, to be quite honest with you. It's been an amazing day. My 2-hour meditation blew the top of my head off. My crown chakra opened up, and it was wonderful. And so if I'm overly excited and a little bit passionate about it, it's because that's good. I'm glad I am. I wish you were. I wish you found that. I wish you felt what it feels like for your crown chakra to open up, and you have a direct line, it feels like, to Source. Wished I could give that to you. So the kingdom of the Father, so yet again, this is the same. It's a source thing. Is like a certain woman, and she took a little leaven, concealed it in some dough, and made it into large loaves. Let him who has ears hear. Do you understand the message? The message is all of these little pieces that you give, if you will put them inside of you, friend, you will grow. Is anybody awake tonight? If you will put these spirit lessons that your guardian angels and your spirit guides and your Father's Source, if you will put those things inside of you, you will supernaturally blow up inside. And that's what's going on. It also has to do with the raising of your frequencies, which changes the world in which you live. So a little bit in makes a whole lot come out. And so then we go to the next one, which was about the leaven. What's the point, or the meal? What is the point he's trying to make? Let's see. If the kingdom of the Father is like this, then we need to look at what this is to understand the kingdom of the Father. So we can put a little leaven in a lump, and that lump grows. So the kingdom of the Father is like this. If you'll put a little bit in, it'll be multiplied. Is anybody awake tonight? And so then we have the next picture, which is, it's like a container that has a knocked out hole in it. And so the woman's walking home, has no knowledge that she's dripping the grain behind her, but it's falling out on the ground. Not the whole thing is dumped upside down, which is what everybody wants. Well, I want it easy. I want Jesus to die for me so I can be saved. It's not, I want to have to work and go behind her and pick up 1 grain of meal at a time, but doing that 1 grain of meal at the time is what makes me grow. That's the metaphor. If you will follow along patiently, you will get the goods, but it's a journey, and it is a longer journey than salvation because of blood and flesh. And so it will then become large. The little that gets trailed out on the road behind the woman becomes much if you come along and pick those kernels up. So I always equated myself, Marianne reminds me of this, the very first message in Austin, Texas, actually in Smithville, Texas. I went to go how do you call it, interview for pastoring. My first church was in Smithville, 250 people church, right? And there was only 5 in the church. And I started my very first message to pastor a church as I was Johnny Appleseed, come to bring the seed of the kingdom. They hated it. They wanted me to tell them how Jesus died for them and that they could bathe in his blood and they were going to heaven and it was guaranteed. They didn't have to do a thing but go home and sit on their rear end. And of course I disappointed. How could I not? Truth always disappoints unreality. Always. So it was like a certain woman carrying a jar full of meal. And it got a hole in it, and little by little it trickled out. And if you were the smart one and you would then not tell her, oh, you got a hole in your jar, you would just walk behind her and pick all the grain up. So when we walk behind those who have the grain in front of us, then what do? We also buy it or then elevate it. That's how the kingdom of the source is. Source isn't going to give you all of it. He won't even give the ascended masters all of it. You can't handle it. We can't handle what is the reality? We can't handle the reality that you may have already come in and out of this earth in different incarnations. It could be 500, it could be 1,000 times. You can't handle that. That's hard. So then Yeshua says, the kingdom of the Father is like a certain man who wanted to kill a powerful man. In his own house, he drew his sword and he stuck it into the wall in order to find out whether his hand could carry through. Then he slew the powerful man. What's that mean? If it's metaphysical and not literal, what does that metaphysically mean? You should remind yourself of that word. If you're not familiar with it, you should give heed to it. What does metaphysical mean? And so this man, angry with something, pulls a sword and he gives it a test drive. And once he finds out the power that he really has, guess what? Then he has the power to do something that he beforehand did not know that he had the power to do. How is this metaphysical? It doesn't mean anything about us killing people. What it means is we have to take a hold of what the kingdom offers us, and we have to use it to learn how powerful we really are. Are you hearing me today? You are infinitely, infinitely, infinitely more powerful than you have any concept of. If we humans knew the power that we had, all darkness on the face of the earth would already have been banished. But then alas, they took our swords and they gave us fake plastic swords as little children to play with so we wouldn't hurt each other. Is anybody seeing? You've had a fake plastic sword. You've had a salvation called Christianity. It's a fake plastic sword. It's not going to accomplish anything. It is going to be very active in stopping you from accomplishing what you made a covenant contract to do while you're on this earth. And if you don't get it complete this time, guess what you do next time? You come back and you live another life until you complete it. You made a contract. You're still living. If you don't know anything about this and going back and taking care of, and it's certainly something that we've just learned, but it's pretty, once you get it, the principle of it, that there are things that are dragging on me from my past lives that are affecting me, then I want to do something about that if I can, and you can. But you have to do it. You have to knock. So, the kingdom of the Father is like a certain man who wanted to kill a powerful man. In his own home, he drew his sword and he stuck it into the wall in order to find out whether his hand could carry through. Wow, what a they're night and day difference in the interpretation, but the picture is just as beautiful. What does it mean for you to find out that you have been empowered with something? Can I tell you, some of you are already starting to experience a difference in your life because your mirror, whether you recognize it or not, your mirror is starting to change. And when you change inside, friend, your life, you don't have to change your life. Your life changes to match your mirror. Is it slow? Yes. But it's also very fast. We've seen more changes in our life in 3 months than I saw in the 30 years before in Christianity. No question. Dave's sitting here shaking his head. Marianne's sitting over there shaking his head. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm pretty sure my grandson's at home shaking his head too. Because he sees it. He feels the peace and the goodness and the love that we didn't feel. We never got that opportunity in Christianity. What I knew is a bunch of people that as soon as they got off and went to lunch on Sun Worship Day, all they could do was talk about all the inferiors at their church. Sat in some board meetings where that was the theme of the conversation. So once you find out how strong you are, then you're capable of overcoming the things that you never could overcome, or the strong man. You want to know how to overcome? Let the light that's inside of you begin to grow and begin to work on you and opening it so that light can come out, and you won't imagine how powerful you are as a human. You won't imagine what the creativity there is going to be a class of people on this earth who are going to fulfill everything Yeshua said. We will see these things in greater that he did. Why? Because we are a collective that is going to end up being worldwide. We are a collective of light workers doing the same work that Yeshua was doing. Of course it's going to be infinitely larger. He was at one of the lowest times in humanity, friends. The lowest vibrational time in humanity was one of them was when Yeshua lived. And look at what he did to the world even in that time. That's a picture, a metaphor to us. So the disciples said to him, "Your brothers and your mother are standing outside." And he said to them, "Those who do the will of my Father are my brothers and my mother. It is they who will enter the kingdom of my Father." And I know you guys don't like that, and I place a lot of value on family, so I know that we hear that, and for many of you, your hackles go up and you go, "Well, I'm not giving up my children for anything." If you gave your children up, you would have totally defeated the purpose. And for my complicity in trying to, I never have felt like I really ever got across what I was really trying to say about the separation concept. But it's happening even now, friends. I know you guys may not understand dimensions, and you may not know that there's actually another person that is living a completely different life at the same time you are. I realize that those are concepts that people have to research and pray and fast and meditate on before those things, you begin to understand those things. So yet again, we're at the beginning leg of a really long journey. The beauty is we have the internet and we have people who have already done a lot of that hard work, and our learning curve can be infinitely shorter if our heart is right. Now, on the other side, and I urge and tell people, I send somebody a DVD to something that I know is okay for them, and the first thing I hear back is that they're looking over here at Joe Blow's, and I go watch Joe Blow's, and I find it, and I go, my God, do you understand how much poison you just put in yourself? Very important that we be very careful. I don't know about you. I came out of Christianity, and I'm not interested in coming out of Christianity to end back up in another Christianity. I've been there and done that already, friend, and I got no interest. I want truth. That's the bottom line. So he says, your brothers and your mother are standing outside, and he said to them, those here who do the will of my Father are my brothers and my mother. It is they who will connect with the kingdom of light. Do you understand the split that's going on the earth right now, in the low density people versus the high density people is what he was talking about? You're not going to have an option, friend. You're going to have to make a decision as to whether you choose to stay in the ignorance that you live in now, or you choose to gain truth and become enlightened. And that's a decision this whole world is going to make very soon. And there will be then a split and a separation. The dimensions will shift, and you will no longer, high vibrational people will no longer be around low vibrational people, which is the part I was referring to, that in a metaphoric form, that is the rapture. It's not a rapture, it's a switching of dimensions. Because of the high vibrations, the dimension walls are very thin right now. But that's not going to be forever. And so that's what he's talking about. When the dimensional change, if I have a brother, sister, mother, son, wife, friend, and they choose to stay at low frequency and live in drama and live in all of the ordinary human thing like you're living in right now, if they choose to do that, there will come a time when we will no longer be in the same spheres. It's not like you had to throw them away because you hated them. In fact, at one point, you're not going to have a choice. You only have one choice. You either choose the high frequency or you stay in the low frequency. And I realize for some of you who don't know such things, it might seem a little bit overwhelming and perplexing. Please, I don't know how you tell people the truth without telling them the truth. Okay? I've always struggled with that. I'm a very deep person, and I pay attention to what I study. And it's hard for me sometimes to go, well, I understand you don't get it and it blows your mind away, but does that mean that I'm supposed to quit helping people because you choose not to study? Is that really my fault? And so they showed Jesus a gold coin and said to him, Caesar's men demand taxes from us. He said to them, give Caesar which belongs to Caesar, and give God what belongs to God, and give me what is mine. What does that mean? It means that whoever has the power to control is your master. Whoever has the power to control. What happens if you don't give the coin to Caesar? Do any of you know what Caesar did if you don't pay your taxes? You won't like it. And we're not far from the taxes Caesar had them pay right here in our own little country. And Yeshua said, whoever does not hate his father, mother, as I do, cannot be a disciple of me. And that sounds really horrible, but you have to understand what he's saying, what he means when he says, as I do. That's the qualifier for you people who've always been confused about this verse in the Christian Bible. This is not the Christian version. This is an eye-opening, Gnostic, metaphysical, cosmic message, which all the New Testament is, except for the corrupt overrides. It's a metaphysical document. No different than than reading the Kabbalion, which is Hermetic philosophy, no more different than reading How to Know God, which is the aphorisms of yoga and Patanjali, which has more validation for God than the Christian Bible ever thought about having. The true God, not Yahweh, the Anunnaki God. And for some of you, you may not have that revelation fully inside of you. Yahweh was an Anunnaki God. He flew around in spaceships. Guys, open your eyes and read what the Bible really says without a Christian perspective. So whosoever does not hate his father and his mother as I do. We got to ask ourselves, because the qualifying statement there is as I do. So what does as I do mean? That's perspective. You can say, whoever loves whatever as I do. Okay, well, what does that mean? I love it, but I don't know if I love it the way as you do. So Yeshua had something very fixed, very firm. And since he's all about love, it's hard for me to believe that he's really telling people that they should hate. What he's saying to them is that what was his perspective is the perspective that we're supposed to have. I love you, and I love you even if I stay separated from you. I will not allow you to corrupt me. It's called now, the buzzword for this goes with the dimensions, and it's talking about I choose not to walk that timeline. If you are walking a timeline, if you are walking a Christian timeline, I don't know how long it will take, but inevitably me and you will never see each other again. Because I'm not going to walk that timeline. And I'm walking an enlightened, higher frequency timeline, and if you're walking that timeline, there's going to be a point. Remember, how can two go together except they agree? There's a reason why that verse is in there. It's a metaphysical statement. And it has to do with people's timelines. The dimension that you are living and functioning in does not coincide with the dimension that I am living and functioning in. And inevitably, eventually, those two roads will part. It all makes sense, and it's not really a horrible thing. You chose your path just as I chose my path. They just don't happen to be the same path. Good luck. I love you. I hope you have a wonderful life. I hope you find all that you're looking for, but you're not going to find what I'm looking for. So whoever does not love his father and his mother, so he says, whoever does not hate as I do, then he says, and whoever does not love his father and his mother as I do cannot become a disciple of mine. That sounds so, that's convoluted. So I have to hate like he does and I have to love like he does. Is anybody awake tonight? How amazing is that? So all we then need to answer is two questions to totally understand what we're supposed to be and what he was. We have to understand how he loved, and we have to understand how he hates. That's all. The rest doesn't matter. He could have said, my brother and sister, the strangers on the street, didn't matter. Unless you hate them the way I hate them, unless you love them the way I love them. And he's talking about the same people every time. So the metaphor isn't that we hate them and so we function and hate the way that we do. The mind, the intent, the heart, the thoughts that we have to have is how did he hate them and how did he love them? And when you understand that, you've just opened up some of the greatest mysteries of the cosmos. And so Jesus said, woe to the Pharisees, for they are like a dog sleeping in the manger of oxen, for neither does he eat, nor does he let the oxen eat. Once again, another really profound. Can I tell you a picture that you could get this from? Christian preachers are like the dog laying in the oxen manger. They have the words. They have the metaphysical teachings of Yeshua, but they choose to tell you that it's not the truth, the metaphysicalism. And so they possess the Bible, and they won't eat of it. They won't put it in them and then live it, and neither do they tell you that you should. You see, it's really not so difficult, and it's not so horrible. Yeshua was a kind, loving man. He loved in a phenomenal way. We could do well just to focus for the next 95 years of our life. We could do well just to focus on trying to figure out how he really did love, because it's overwhelming, friends. You find that, I guarantee you will already be ascended. Why? Because we already are ascended. That's a little misconception, and I understand it, and I'm okay with it. I'm not dogmatic about it, but I'm going to give you a piece of truth you're not hearing many people. You have already ascended. You are already as bright a light as you will ever be. The job isn't to ascend. The job is to expose, to remove all of the things that are quelling or dampening or blanketing over the light that you already are. Your light doesn't get any brighter, you just have less junk hanging on it. So if I took this fluorescent light, I could leave that fluorescent light, and if I put enough stuff over the top of it, it'll be dark in this room. And that's how our lives are. Our lives are just as bright as that, friend. Your bright is as bright as any bright that's bright. The only problem is that you got layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, and we've been noticing around here that just about the time you peel one layer of an onion, what you find out is there's another layer under it. And that's our lives. As far as brightness, you have inside of you the God light, which is exactly what Yeshua told us when he said, you are the light. You can't get any brighter. You just have to remove all the junk in your life that's dimming your light. So, he said, woe to the Pharisees, for they are like a dog sleeping in the manger of oxen, for neither does he eat, nor does he let the oxen eat. Really simple once you understand what he's really saying there. And he's really not being unkind to the Pharisees. I said it about Christian pastors. I'm not being unkind to Christian pastors. But if you don't know the truth, then you're telling people lies because you don't know the truth. And I've been guilty of that too, so I'm willing to admit it. But what did I do when I found out the truth? And I think my life is a perfect example of what to do when you find out the truth. You go to the truth and you throw away what the false was. If that's difficult for you, then it's difficult for you. It ain't been easy for me. Doesn't mean you don't do it, though. So, Jesus said, fortunate is the man who knows where the brigands will enter, so that he may get up, master his domain, and arm himself before they invade. What's that mean? Now, does that mean that we should have our guns sitting by every door so when the government comes we can kill them all? I have to tell you guys, the timeline with American news and politics has shifted more in the last 3 months than any of you probably have a clue of. It's like, what election? I don't even care about this election. It's already been spoken that it's probably already decided anyway. But it's really horrible to listen to all of that drama and hate and anger that comes out of all of that nonsense. I'm sorrowful. I love what Trump did, and I loved Trump last year, but listening to this constant rhetoric and beating each other up, that crap gets on my nerves. And it's never done that in my life. So I know that the word changes you if you will hear what it actually says. Pretty hard and pretty powerful, though. It's a different timeline. Dave's exactly right, man. You guys need to listen to those things. Once you begin, if you begin this walk and this journey, you'll watch how fast things change. It's fast. Creator. Everybody used to sit around and praying and hoping maybe someday before I die, God will do what I ask him for. And I'm telling you, the reason none of that crap in Christianity works is because ain't none of that what the truth is. When you get a hold of the truth, things begin to change. So fortunate is the man who knows where the brigand will enter. So he's then speaking to us if we use the brigand, if we look at our lives. Blessed is the man who knows about his life where the enemy will enter. Where will the enemy enter your life? Is the question that you could ask yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Frequencies. You ever heard that birds of a feather flock together? That's why positive people stay away from negative people. That's a timeline issue. There's many things that you've heard, but understanding and knowing how to use them and flow in that is a completely different story. And so then Jesus said, "Come, let us pray today and let us fast." And Jesus said, "What is the sin that I have committed, or wherein have I been defeated? But when the bridegroom leaves the bridal chamber, then let them fast and pray." Really, really amazing concept. Look at what he said. They said to Jesus. They said to Jesus, "Come, let us pray and fast." And look at his next statement. If you understand what this is, it'll confirm everything I've been saying to you guys about there is no sin, and everybody inevitably is going to end up in the presence of Father Source. Yeshua says that in this verse. Look at what he says. They say to Jesus, "Come, let us pray today and let us fast." And Yeshua asked, "What is the sin I have committed?" What sin have I done? Why would he say that? Why would he question all that Christianity teaches about sin? It's just like the yogi that got asked by the Christian preacher. And he asked the yogi after a conversation, and the yogi was walking away. He was done with this Christian preacher. And he's walking away, and the preacher asked him, he said, so what is it, sir, that y'all do about salvation? Well, when you really begin to understand and begin to believe that the truth of the matter is that Yeshua was a Buddhist monk, and he was a Buddhist monk, when you understand somebody asking this question, it really becomes quite stupid and ludicrous that anybody would be this deceived, but that is who we were. And the Buddhist monk, just as Yeshua is saying here, what sin is it that I've supposedly committed? Have I sinned because I'm a human? See, there's no other place in the world like Christianity where this whole concept of original sin exists. Original sin says that you're living under the curse of sin and you had nothing to do with it. Now, we are living under some evil forces, and we're living under some contracts, and we're living under some oaths, and we're living under those things, but Christianity doesn't deal with you carrying the baggage that you carried with you into this life from another life. In fact, they tell you that you're out of your mind and you're a devil and going to hell if you know any of that. Ask yourself a question. How was a lady who was a witch, supposed witch doctor, how was she able to get the prophet Samuel to come back in the spirit form and speak with her? That sounds a whole lot like to me, like mediums. And they're all over television now. One of the most popular subjects on TV. Why? Because there's a spiritual enlightenment that is going on, that the spirit world is real and it functions, and Christianity will hide it from you. They don't want you to know how to function in the spirit realm. They want you to stay at low vibration. That's what they're feeding off of. And you don't have to do that. So they say, come, let us pray today and let us fast. And Jesus asked, what is the sin that I've committed? Why do I need to go pray and fast? That's pretty crazy coming from the guy who was supposedly the Savior of the world. And wherein have I defeated? Or in other words, how have I failed? See, he had no consciousness of sin. That's the point I'm trying to get you to see here. Yeshua had no consciousness of sin. But when the bridegroom leaves the bridal chamber, then let them fast and pray. Jesus said, he who knows the father and the mother will be called the son of a harlot. What's that mean? What's that mean? Jesus said, when you make the two one, you will become the sons of man. And when you say, mountain, move away, it will move away. What's that mean? When you make the two one, what does that mean? Anybody awake? I'm telling you, friends, Yeshua was screaming at us so that we could learn how to be free. The kingdom is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of them, the largest, went astray. He left the 99 sheep, and he looked for the one until he found it. When he had gone to such trouble, he said to the sheep, I care for you more than the 99. Do you understand what he's saying? When you have 5 billion Christians, okay, and the one goes away, he leaves the 5 billion Christians to come and find you, and you're more precious than all of those. That's the metaphoric picture. You, my friend, if you have begun this journey of enlightenment, you are more precious to him than all the Christian everythings. I'm trying to learn how to control myself. You're more, stop and think about that. Marianne, Mike, Dave, Rob, Sister Francis, Brother Cliff, people over here and people over there. You're more precious to Source than all of those who choose not to. And there's no question about that. He's always, he loves knowledge, and he loves people who desire true knowledge. Wow. If you can't go away from here tonight and feel like you're 10 foot tall and almost bulletproof, you got a spiritual problem. Because I'm here to tell you, friends, we are not just some throwaway people who lost our minds. In fact, we're in the middle of the preparation for what's coming, which is yet again another wave that you may not know anything about. But I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a whole lot of these low vibrational people that I've been around my whole life who are one day going to wish to God they could get a chance to talk to me. And it won't be because of me. And it won't be because of Dave. And it won't be because of Marianne. It'll be because of the light that lives inside of us. You don't understand what the process is. This is all preparation time, friends. We're coming to the end of humanity as you know it. Only it's not going to be a rapturing and a catching away and a going to hell. Although, I guess living without light could be equated as being hell. If you love this drama and you love all of this density and you love all the strife and you love all the suffering and you love all the unhappiness, then you're going to like making the wrong decision. But on the other side, if you can't stand this stuff and it daily affects you, you're going to love making the right decision. But either way, you're going to make a decision. Wow. I call it the Bible on steroids. They gave it a sleeping medication so that it would be quiet. But when you take the sleeping medication away, immediately the walls of Christianity begin to crumble. And the light begins to shine again. And unfortunately, we're at a point to where you can't put this under a bushel basket anymore, friend. That's what you're seeing going all over this world. They now know scientifically that the children of this age that are before us, my grandchildren, have a different DNA and they have a different frequency when they come out of the womb. They know that. They have admitted that scientifically. Don't tell me humanity's not changing. Just because you don't understand it and you don't care about it doesn't mean it's not real. There's a reason why our youth think differently. And you can't understand them. So we are then like the one sheep. Wow. Can I tell you here today? If your heart and your desire and your craving inside of you is to know God more, friend, you're one of those. And he's not ashamed to tell you how much he loves you. He's not even ashamed to tell you he loves you more than those who won't. He who will drink from my mouth will become like me. What's he talking about? Is he talking about now we're supposed to go over and hang out with Yeshua in Kashmir, India, and every time he takes a drink of wine, he opens his mouth, and whoever gets to lay under him gets to drink what comes out of his mouth, and they turn into him? I mean, because that's what the words say. If you're looking carnally. I myself shall become he, and the things that are hidden will be revealed to him. When you hear people like me say words like we're all one, here's a revelation that maybe you guys haven't understood. Do you understand now the principles with the little bit that you've learned of why we're to love our neighbor as ourselves? How many of you, if I ask you honestly, can I get you to put your thumb out on an anvil, and can I hand you a hammer and you smack your thumb? And you have the understanding that you doing that, you hurt every other human that exists on the face of the earth? But you do. See, we're ignorant. We're totally blind to our actions and how they equate to other people. What are the 10 Commandments about? The 10 Commandments are about loving Source and loving other humans. Folks, we missed the memo. We missed the whole purpose. We're all one. We're all tied together. We're all the same spark of light from the same source of light, who is Source. And if I hurt me, then I hurt you. And if you hurt me, you hurt you. If we really got that revelation, the world would change pretty rapidly. So the kingdom is like a man who had a hidden treasure in the field without knowing it. And after he died, he left it to his son, and the son did not know about the treasure. He inherited the field and sold it. And the one who bought it went plowing and found the treasure, and he began to lend money at interest to whom he wished. What's that mean? The father hid the treasure. It was his to hide. The son didn't find it. He was too worried about getting all he could get from daddy But there was someone else who came along who got the Father's treasure. I could equate that as the Son is the Christian religion. They don't want the treasure. They don't want to teach you how to be light. They want to suppress you so you can't find out how to be light. That's why they burn all the Gnostic teachings that came before them, of which Yeshua was one. Jesus said, whoever finds the world and becomes rich, let him renounce the world. I had somebody say to me recently something about the world, and I said, well, there's your first problem, honey. You keep chasing the world. The heavens and the earth will be rolled up in your presence, and the one who lives from the living one will not see death. Does not Jesus say, whoever finds himself is superior to the world? Do you understand that? Huh? Whoever finds himself, what's he really saying? Whoever finds the true light that you really are is greater than everything. It's all confirmation of everything that I've told you, friends. You want to find out what true riches are? Find out who you are to source. When you do that, you'll be amazed how insignificant money and people and churches and things and cars are. His disciples said to them, when will the kingdom come? Jesus said, it will not come by waiting for it. It will not be a matter of saying, here it is or there it is. Rather, the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. It's already here. I am it. I am the kingdom of the Father. Simon Peter said to him, let Mary leave us, for women are not worthy of life. And Jesus said, I myself shall lead her in order to make her male. He's a transsexual supporter. It's quite obvious. The masculine and the feminine are preparing, friends, for the statement that he made, and it was going on even then. You guys don't understand this. I believe there's a balance in there that's going to happen, and I think it's why you're seeing so much transsexualism. There's going to be a time, we know that, when men and women will no longer be men and women. We will just be human. Elevated human, but human. I personally believe that there's a lot of stuff that we've been massively deceived and lied about, but what Yeshua just said right there in the last verse of the Gospel of Thomas, friends, I can't imagine that's not all over the internet. So once again, you heard it here. Just wait about 5 or 6 weeks and there'll be 20 teachings on YouTube after I teach this tonight. Y'all don't understand. I release things constantly. And when I speak them, they begin to manifest. Why? Because Source listens to what I have to say. Usually because he gave it to me. But you have to release it. Prophetic words are useless unless you speak them. And when I speak them, then they're like the rock thrown into the pond, and it just begins to reverberate. All of a sudden, people all over the earth are going to start saying, you know, what about that verse back there in the Gospel of Thomas? You watch. I'm just telling you, keep your eyes open. It's a synchronicity. It's not accidental. I've watched this now probably 100 or 200 times, and I got to thinking, you know, this keeps happening all the time. I speak something, and 6 weeks later, there's 35 teachings on it. Why do you think that is? You just have to ask yourself a question. I'm starting to understand what it is. And so Simon Peter says, let Mary leave us, for women are not worthy of life. Jesus said, I myself shall lead her in order to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit resembling you males. Ow! This is from your Savior? That she may too become a living spirit resembling you males. For every woman who will make herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven. That's huge, brother. Let that, is your mind going a little wanky right about now? Because it ought to be. As it said, you might feel a little bit lightheaded for the next while. Friends, it came out of the Master's mouth. He had already told people when he was asked the question, and he told them, what do you mean? With the angels, there is no sex. So it will be with us. When? When we become enlightened. What you're seeing is human light forces that are vying for the fulfillment of Yeshua's words. A little out of time and a little bit out of order and a little bit out of discipline. Well, of course we are, but we're not at the frequency that we're going to be living at then either. All of those things will right themselves, which is why I told you guys, I'm sorrowful for any failings that I've done, but if you have children that are confused, love them. There ain't anything greater you can do for them than to love them. If you got a granddaughter, if you got a daughter, go hug them and love them. If you got a son, go hug him and love him. After all, our physical bodies mean nothing anyways. Remember, we only have a physical body and it dies and rots, but we never die. So what does that tell us then? This physical body means nothing. And it's really funny, in all of these past life regressions that we've been studying, almost every human being, when going through a past life regression, almost every human being has been both male and female. It doesn't mean anything, guys. Wow, that's huge. I'm sorrowful, that's just huge. So, protect yourself. Do yourself a favor. I sent out a couple of really small, their love meditations. Yeah, who amongst you can't spend 20 minutes in the morning before your coffee, or in the daytime when you need a nap, or at night before you go to bed and fall asleep? Who of you couldn't afford 10 or 15 minutes to lay in bed and learn breathing technique and remind yourself that Source loves you, and remind Source that you love Source? I love him. He loves me. I guarantee you that'll take you right into the happy zone. It's one of the most powerful meditations that exist in the world. Massively high vibration. Very simple. I love him. He loves me. I love him. He loves me. All right. Well, we finished up. I hope my book comes in. We'll pick up next Wednesday on Dolores Cannon. They walked with Jesus. You guys will be so blessed and so overwhelmed with the information that came out of people from past life regressions, dealing directly with people who in other lives spent time in the presence of Yeshua. It'll blow your mind. Guys, we're on the most beautiful path that's ever existed. I spoke this 30 years ago in Austin, Texas, standing in the pulpit of a Pentecostal church, and I said, one day, we're going to see things that would blow your mind. You would never believe what we're going to get to see happen in our lifetime. And look at where we're at today. Namaste. Hello. Marianne. Are you going to stop it?